everyone, and welcome to the Crafty Girl. Today's project is going to be this adorable mini hanging bumblebee. Now, I say mini, but you can see it fits in the palm of my hand, so it's about 4 inches. I don't know if we would actually consider that mini, but it is definitely a little small, adorable little gift that you can give, especially at this time of year. So I'm going to walk you through the process on how I created this adorable love bee with my Addi 22. You can also use a Centro 22, or if you make this on a bigger machine, it'll just make a bigger bumblebee. So for today's project, what we will need is we will need some yellow yarn. We will also need some black yarn. So these will be for the body. We're also going to need white or cream, like an off-white like this. In fact, on this one, I actually used this off-white color. It turned out pretty good. That's not great English, pretty well. So we have a little bit of this, and then you'll also need some red. And the reason for that is this particular bee does not have a stinger. No, folks, it does not have a stinger because we want to have a heart on the back. And I just think that this looks absolutely adorable. So we're going to make a little crochet heart for the back of our bee. So you will need to do a little bit of crocheting with this project, but I will walk you through how to do not only the wings, but the heart as well. So let's create our adorable love bee. Now I know the angle is a little odd. You might be able to see my feet down here, but that is because the Addi machines actually come with clamps, which are insanely amazing. So she is clamped down to my table and not going anywhere, and it actually makes this project so much faster. Like I mentioned, you can do this on the Centro 22 as well. It just is a matter of 22 pins. So we're gonna actually start with our yellow yarn, and here's some good news for those of you that do not like to use waste yarn. We're not going to use waste yarn for this project because we'll be cinching both ends and tucking it inside of itself, so we don't need any waste yarn. So we are just going to cast on using the standard method. So you're going to put it under. Now I learned on the Centro, and so on the Centro we always start, well, I don't know about I always start on the last pin, you know, whatever the last pin is on a Centro. With Addi, I think a lot of people might start on the first pin, which may be this. I don't know. So don't come at me if I'm doing this incorrectly. Just start on whichever pin you typically start at, and then we are going to cast on. Just be consistent. If that's the pin you start on, just that'll be the pin that you also change your yarn colors. So we're just gonna do the typical casting on method. Okay, put that in there. Excellent. We're gonna set, let's make sure that that's right there. We're gonna set our machine back to 0. So for this first round, first color, we are actually gonna do 10 rows in yellow. Up on the end. Okay, excellent. So we are here at the end. So now we are going to do a color change. So we're going to cut our yarn, pop that in the center, and then we will grab our black yarn to do our color change. And for this row, we are going to do 4. Okay, and then don't forget, as we do our color changes, just to give it a gentle knot there. We'll tighten those up once we cast off. Okay, time for our next color change. We're gonna once again go back to our yellow yarn, and we are going to knit another 4 rows. forget to tie. In fact, I think I need to start tying these sooner so I don't forget it all. Okay, so there's that. Okay, time to go back to black. So we're creating those little stripes. And guess how many rows we're gonna do? Wrong, we're not doing 4. We're doing 3 this time. And if you're keeping track, you should be on row 21. Now, I did a few different iterations of this bumblebee for what I liked the most. I used to crochet a ton of these, and so I kind of am using that model of what I did. And just as a reminder, so with this, we did that's not the one. That's one of my scrap ones. We did 10 rows here in the front, and that's to give it enough space so that we can actually add our face on there. If you're going to add eyes, you can also just use yarn. But this is the spacing that I think worked out the best. All right, now that we've done 3 in black, we are once again going to move our yarn. And now we're just going to do yellow until the end. That's it. Yellow into the end. So essentially what we'll end up doing is we're going to knit 4 rows in yellow, and that's going to be the whole first or the whole visible part of the bumblebee. The rest, the 25 additional rows, that is just going to be on the inside of the bee. So again, to show you with this, so this right here, this is only 25 rows. The other 25 is tucked on the inside, and that's so that when you stuff it, you don't have stuffing showing. It also makes it a little bit more, you know, a little sturdier here. So if you do not have enough yellow after the 4, let's say you're running low on your stash and you just want to try to get rid of some scrap yarn, you can do another color that's just going to tuck on the inside. Just keep in mind that you will be able to see it probably through the yellow. So you just don't want it to be like a red or a pink or anything. All right, so now we are going to put those, and we are just going to keep going until we get to 50. Tying these together before I forget. All right, here we are back again. We're going to trim our, make sure I got to 50, yes. All right, now we are going to cast off using a needle. A curved needle works the best for that I've found. Here. All right, so as you probably know, we need to go in and double tie all of our color changes. And I used to take the time, in fact, I shared it in one of the videos. There was a tip on how to prevent these step-ups here in the yarn changes and to get a really clean line. And it involved going through the machine and moving something around. And then I had some great advice from some others that if you, and from a lot of practice, if you pull it pretty snugly, it actually will take that right away. So you just have to make sure you don't pull too tightly because then it'll mess up your tension. Now, I typically would tell you to leave your yarn tails because they're going to be hidden, but what happens is because there's black here and there's yellow, I do find that trimming the yarn tails makes them less visible. So I do actually trim these, which I don't typically do. Okay, excellent. So pretty clean. pretty clean. Looks good to me. When I was making this earlier, when I was making this little version, at first it looked like a little goldfish. So if I didn't finish the end of here, it had this little goldfish look to it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should make some goldfish. In fact, I think I might do that. Okay, so this is what our next step is. So now that we have given our yarn, still figuring out the tension with this Addi. Looks way better than the first time I did it. So what we're going to do is we are going to pull this right side. Okay, just a little bit, not too much, because we're going to actually going to need to pull this through. And then what I like to do is take my needle and my hand in the other side and grab the needle and pull it through. And the reason for that is because we are going to be pulling this in on itself, and it's a little bit easier to do that when you have the yarn tail. So just going to keep slowly moving it up as we go. And then also make sure, okay, there we go, that there's just no bubbles in there. Nope, looks good. All right, so then what we're gonna do, the next step, is now we're going to cinch the top. All right, now I always tie these together. It's really out of habit, but that's how we're gonna seal that little portion off. Now, if you have any little hole there or you don't want any hole at all, then you can take your yarn and you can weave it around to tighten it up. So when you start to stuff it, in fact, let me put my hand in here so I can kind of round that out a little bit. So when you start to stuff it, you're going to see that hole might open up a little bit. So this is what I recommend so you don't get any more bulk on the nose, is if you just take one of your pieces of yarn here and you're going to go right in and you're going to follow along here around the hole and then pull your yarn tight. And then you're going to go back in where you came out. Okay, and we're just going to keep doing this and the hole will get smaller until it's pretty much disappeared. Now I know we have this yarn coming through. This yarn we're actually going to use later as well as this one, so we're not going to trim these up. And I also don't want to tie a knot here because I don't want to have any more bulk since this is the front of the face. So let's just try that. I think that should be excellent. Okay, and so the reason we're leaving these two here is because these will actually, at the very end, you'll be able to pull those through. Actually, they have two uses. The first use is that we're going to take one and we're going to use it to close up the back. So we don't have to grab any more yarn. We can just use what's already on the yarn tail. And then we're going to weave it back through and we're going to create the little hanging piece here. So don't cut these off. Keep these tails on here. Move all my junk out of the way. Okay. So now the next step, what I did in the past too, is I did actually tuck these on the inside and then tie them again. Depending on how you're feeling, you can do that. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that since I'm telling you right now. Okay, so we're just going to pull that through. That through, and then just come under here and do another double knot. It never hurts, right? Okay, and then these we're just going to leave loose. Make sure you have access to them as you start to stuff. Okay, so this is what I was saying earlier, how it looked like a goldfish. Well, it'll look more like that once I get this stuffed. So now what we need, oh, and I didn't even mention at the beginning, you do need some stuffing of some kind. I just kind of assumed if you're making a stuffy like this, then you have stuffing, but you will need stuffing of some kind. And so we are going to go ahead and stuff the head. And I'm using oh, you can't really see. It's just polyfill, premium high performance fiber fill for darker colors, 32 ounces. I don't know if that means anything, but I got this one back when I was doing these before because I didn't want, so it looks like this. This is kind of ugly. It looks weird, but I like this for these projects. So we're gonna we're not stuffing the whole thing right now. We're only stuffing the head. And you wanna try to get it so that it's as round as possible. And then use your fingers to kind of create that bulb here, because that'll tell you if you have enough. Now I can see that it's a little concave. It's not, you want it to be round, okay? And it's not round. So we do not have enough. So we're gonna stuff some more in here. Again, make sure to keep those tails to the side. Okay, and I'm just gonna use my thumb and push this forward to create that rounded look. And see, this is also what I was mentioning before, my yarn tails. You can see that black through there. Let me see if I can get in here and hide it. Yeah, look at that. Probably should have hidden them anyway. Okay, so let's see. I think that is probably, it's a good amount of stuffing. Yeah, definitely more rounded. So now, before we go any further, gonna flatten out, it will. We need to add eyeballs and the mouth. So we're gonna do that piece. I have little safety eyes here that I tend to use, but you can also just use yarn if you want. I like to use black yarn here for the mouth, just to do something kind of cute. And then I almost always use pink to give it a little extra look. And that honestly comes from doing a lot of amigurumi, because a lot of those projects had those had cute little cheeks in the projects. All right, well, let's grab a couple of eyeballs. These the same size? Nope. Want to make sure they're the same size. Oh, and I'm running low. I need to get some more. I'm gonna go with the smaller size. Okay, and now placement for the eyes. It's really up to you. Do what you think is gonna look best. You can see on this example, yeah, I didn't tighten that enough. That's gonna bother me, but that's okay. So in this example, I always go, let's see, what is it about? 1, 2, 3, 4. So about 4 stitches away from the center. Okay, so let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. That, and remember, this is gonna be like this, if that helps. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That would put it here. So I'm just gonna place these just like this. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, those too far apart. I just usually eyeball this piece, but I figured since it's a tutorial, I should probably give you some instructions. Probably a good idea. Let's see, do I like those or are they too far apart? I think they're pretty, now they're a little bit further apart than this is. Let's try that one. All right, and this one, let's go there. Okay, that looks about more in line with what I'm thinking. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead, put the backs on. And the reason we put the stuffing in first, and I know it makes it a little bit harder to put your backs on, but you need to see how the face is going to look. Let's say you got distracted and accidentally did, 9 rows or did 11 or 12 rows. You need to make sure that those eyes are going to sit correctly with the stuffing in there. And you can get these safety eyes for pretty cheap. I got this whole collection on Amazon a while back, and it's lasted me quite a while. Okay, I didn't like where that eyeball is, but that is what it is. Okay, Now let's go ahead and add a mouth, and we have those yarn tails that we cut off earlier. Might have enough to do the mouth. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want it to be a little bit longer so that I can tie it so it doesn't come out. And at this point, if you can take that stuffing out if you need to, but I don't think that it's necessary. Let's go with this length right here. And then I'm just gonna go in, let's see. Make sure that that tail is still here. Okay, and then go here. And you can customize this by making whatever kind of mouth you want to make. Okay, and then I'm gonna go here. And back in. And I put it through the stuffing just to prevent it from coming out. You could tie the knot as well with both ends, because we have that other end here. So if you were really concerned, you can absolutely tie those together. If I can find where the other end came out. I think that was that end. Yeah. So that one's a little smirky. I like the little smirk. You can always loosen it a little. Okay. And then grab me some pink. I have this lighter colored pink. Yeah, we'll do a little bit light. No, I love the bright pink. I just don't have much of it left, but luckily it doesn't take much to do. I'm gonna cut about this. I'll tell you how much I just cut off. About 15 inches. Again, this is not an exact science. Okay, being a perfectionist and an artist is very challenging. So we're just gonna go ahead and leave it at that. I like the way that it looks. And then as I mentioned before, you are more than welcome if you need to. Just make sure again that these are loose. You can tie these together just to prevent it from coming out. Don't go tight, it'll pull it on the other side. And I don't know where the other side of this is. So I'm just gonna do a quick tie to this one. And if my mouth comes out, and comes out. All right, now that we have our mouth done, we are going to finish stuffing our stuffy. Okay, that might be a little too much. You don't want it, again, this is a small version. This is 4 inches. So if you hold on to this stuff there, it'll show you if you have enough. So I feel like that is probably going to be just fine. Now we will need another piece of black yarn. So we are going to use this piece of scrap yarn right here. And make sure that it's long enough to go around. And this is where everything, you want to get your head totally done because we're going to lock our little head in place essentially. All right. Now I always start at the bottom just in case there's any sort of seam that shows. And so I'm going to just go around and I'm picking up stitches all in the same row. So you can see I'm just going down, picking those loops up, and then I'm going to pull the longer enough tail there, pull that through. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And we are creating a gather, and follow this line because this, if you don't follow the line, it'll look very odd. That yellow I don't like there. And you are making sure you're going through all the layers. So I didn't mention that. So you do need all the layers here. Okay, and then finish very close to where your other one started. All right, now what we do is we're going to pull those, and that's going to create that head definition that we are looking for. So we're going to pull these together, and then we are going to, there we go, pull them as tight as you want for whatever definition you want. Everyone has a little bit different amount that they want here. Okay, so that's going to be our little bee head. Our little bee head. Cute. Okay, so now what we're going to do, now that we've done that piece, we're going to take one, and if you have a longer one, I would choose the longer one. We're going to take one. This one's just going to hang out. In fact, actually, before we do that, we already tied this together. Let's go ahead. I think I already did, yes. Before we do anything else, I'm actually going to hide these tails. And really simple to do that. Just put it through the center. Okay. And then we can cut these. You can save this one and use this for another project. Okay, so now we're going to cinch up the bottom, and we're going to do that by taking one of those little yellow yarn tails, and you're going to take your needle and go all the way around. And then when you need to come up, that's okay. Then you're just going to go right back down the same hole. And you'll know you'll come back to the beginning because you'll be right where that one was. A little overlap here. Make sure I got everything in there. Yes. So now we're just going to give it a gentle tug. Okay, and that's creating our little bee body. Little bee body. And once again, you can finish this however you want. It's going to be covered up with the heart. So you don't have to get too crazy, but we obviously want it to be closed up enough that it doesn't have any filling coming out. So I'm just going to go around a few times. Now, if you weren't going to use the heart, then you would just want to make sure that this is cinched up as much as possible. Also, if you want an alternate for this side too, you could, when you get down here, when you do the yellow, the 4 rows of yellow, instead of doing 4 rows of yellow into the 25, you could do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You probably could do another black color change at 6 and 7 and 8. And then that way you'd have the black here. And then if you wanted to do, you know, do it like that, you certainly could. But the whole point of this is, in my opinion, that you've got the bee with the heart instead of the stinger. I think that is sweet. Now we're going to do another tie off action. Remember, this is going to be hidden, so we're just going to do a double knot. Okay, now just leave these here for now. We are going to use those to make our little tie, and let me measure this. And this is about 4 inches. It's a little over 4 inches, but the final project typically would be about 4 inches. So now what we need to do is we need to create our wings and also our heart. And we're going to do this with the crochet method. And I'm going to show you how to do that next. For the wings, I am going to use a number 5 crochet hook. So I use a 5mm. This is my favorite hook. I use this for almost everything. And this is probably just like a 4-weight yarn that I have. Is just kind of some scrap yarn that is here. And I'm going to create, in fact, let me pull up my sleeve so I can show you. Oh, by the way, here's my bee kind tattoo. So bees are a big part of my life. Love the bees. Okay, so to create the wings, we're going to be creating 2 wings and then we're going to connect them together. And you're going to start with a magic ring. So the magic ring, if it's new to you, you can do just a single crochet, but this method, I promise you, once you master it, is not challenging. So just take your yarn, wrap it around your fingers, okay, and then just that made it look really complicated. It's not that complicated. Me trying to explain it is complicated. So you have it here, wrap it around your fingers, and then what that does, if you can hold it between these 2 fingers, go ahead, but you're going to end up with 2 little pieces of yarn here. You're going to go under with your crochet hook, hook it, pull it up. You're going to come through here and you're going to crochet 1 chain. So we just did 1 chain. And that's it. That's the magic ring. So now that we have our magic ring created, now we're going to do the pattern to create these wings. Now the pattern is not that complicated. Even though I've done it 100 times, I still always forget the pattern. So now that you have your magic ring, we're going to go into the center, pull up the yarn. We're just doing a single crochet and then back down. So there's 1, 2, 3, almost 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we just did 6 single crochets, and then we're going to take this string right here, this tail, and we're going to pull it together because we're cinching up that magic ring. And then you're going to find, once you do that, that you have this little stitch right there. We're going to go through. Of course, the smaller that it is, the more complicated it is. And because I'm recording, it doesn't want me to do this easily. Okay, there we go. So then all we're going to do is a slip stitch. So we're going to pull the yarn through and through again, and then chain 1. Now the next round that we're going to do is going to be an increase round. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets in each of the stitches here. Stitches, is that what we're calling them? I've been doing knitting machine for so long now that I forget how to refer to anything else. But we're going to do, in each of these stitches here, we are going to do 2 half double crochets for a total of 12. So we started with 6, and then now we're going to increase to 12. So if you can keep track that way. And then we're going to do US terminology half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over 1, go through, pull up that yarn tail, and you'll see there's 3 loops on there. For the half double crochet, we're just going to yarn over 1 more time and pull all the way through. And then we're going to yarn over. We're going to go back into the same stitch, okay? Pick up that yarn, and then pull all the way through. So we just did 2. And now we're going to continue and do this all the way around. So into the next stitch. Cool. So then this is the false stitch, and then we're just going to go into that one right there. Once again, slip stitch, and then chain 1. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually create larger stitches. We're going to do double crochet, and we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 2 double crochet in the second stitch, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. And we're going to complete that pattern all the way around. We'll end up with 18 total stitches. So for a double crochet, we're going to go around 1 time through the stitch and then pick up the yarn. This time you're going to pull through just the first 2, yarn over, and the 2 again. Then we're going to go into the next stitch. And we're going to do 1 more in that same stitch so that we have 2. And then we're back to single. And then double. And if you ever forget, because I start daydreaming and I forget what I'm doing, you can see here there's 2 in this stitch, 1 in this stitch, 2 in this stitch, 1 in this stitch. So I know that I need to do another one here. And that happens all the time. Okay, and if you did it correctly, you should end up on that last stitch right there with a double, or with 2 stitches, not to be confused with double. So 2 stitches in there. And then we're going to come in and do a slip stitch to close. And then tie off the end. And this is the first wing. Now we're going to make 2 of these. You can certainly tighten up this bottom right now if you want to, or you can go on to the next one. But we're going to make 1 more identical. So all I do with this in the back, because I do want to hide this tail before I trim it, because it will be a little bit visible. So I'm just going to weave it through here, keeping the center tightened, because that's the magic ring portion. Cool. All right, let's go make another one and I'll meet you right back here. So now we are back with both of our little wings here, and we are going to connect them at where they tie. So all you have to do here, we can start by just tying a little knot. It just helps keep them together. There we go. And then I do always like to attach them a little bit more, and just going in and out of each side. Essentially, we're stitching them together right at the center. And this is how I prefer. I've seen some people do wings and they have them on either side. I don't like the way that looks. I think this looks more adorable. Okay, those look great. So I'm going to go down the center. Go down the center. Looks good. And then I am going to tie these off. All right, now these you can cut off because you've already hidden. Let me clarify what you can cut off. So the ones for the magic ring, you can actually trim those up pretty close because you've already tucked them. Don't do it unless you've tucked them. And then these two that are hanging from the center, this is how we're going to connect them to our little love bee here. So we are going to, this one's the longer end. I always find it easier to do that. Oh, and I'm unraveling all of my yarn. One of the problems of using thrifted yarn. All right, and then just decide where you want it to go. I find that if it sits right here between the kind of at the neck level, that is where I like it to go. So I'm just going to take my needle and try to get through both of those layers here. And I'm going to pull my string through. And then I'm going to take the other and see where this one's coming out. We're going to do the opposite, and we're going to go in that hole and come out and make sure it's lined up with where you want it to go. And then we have it on the other side. So now we can take it to the back so that it's not as noticeable and tie those two together. And again, I just do a double knot. There we go. Cute, cute, cute. And then we are going to just hide these just by going really close to where that is and all the way through. Let's pull that. Do the same on the other side. Then we'll get that so it goes in. Okay, so the last step that we have now, if you do not want to add the heart, if you do not want to do that piece, all you would do is you would take these two and work them up through here and pull them up. That's going to be what you're going to hang it with. But in fact, we'll do that right now because we need to make space for our little heart anyway. So I'm going to take, actually, let me show you how I do it. I'm going to take one at a time, and then I am going to go through the yarn. And that's just to make sure that it has some leverage all the way so that it's about right under. Now, don't put it through the wings, but under the wings. Okay, and then we'll take the next one and do the same thing. So we'll go through there for a little leverage. And we want to try to come up through the same hole. There we go. Excellent. And so that is how you're going to hang, wherever you want to hang this, from your driver's mirror. What do you call that? A mirror? Rear view mirror. Wow. It's been a while since I've had to use my words, I guess. All right, but before we do that, we are going to create our cute little heart. So grab whatever red yarn you want to use. If you have, I mean, there's all types of red yarn, right? Earlier today, I used the sparkle yarn, and I think I'm going to use this as well, or again, because I like the sparkle. All right, to make our heart, this is actually a little bit easier than the wings because we're only going to make one of these. And this pattern is going to consist of treble crochets and double crochets. We are going to start with a magic ring once again, and we're going to leave a little bit of a tail here so that we can weave it into the back of our bee. So wrap it around. We're going to come up, capture the yarn, and then we're going to chain 2. So there's chain 1, chain 2. Then again, US terminology because it's different, we're going to do a treble crochet, and treble means 3. So not to be confused with how many times the yarn goes over. So we're going to yarn over once, yarn over twice. We're going to go through our center ring, pull up, and now this is when we're going to pull through 3 times. So we're going to pick up our yarn, go 1, pick up our yarn, go through 2, pick up our yarn, and go through 3. So that's our first treble crochet. We're going to do 2 more of these. So wrap it around twice, do our magic ring, keep that out of the way. We're going to go 1, pick up the yarn, 2, pick up the yarn, 3, and we're going to do 1 more of those. Now this yarn is really thin, so it's a little bit harder to use. Okay, so we started with our 3 treble crochets. Now we're going to go right into 3 double crochets. So we're going to go around 1 time through the magic ring, and then double means 2. So now we're going to pull through once, yarn over, pull through again. So that's our first double crochet. Again, around, through, and then 1, 2, round, through, and then 1 and 2. So we did 3 treble crochets, 3 double crochets, and now we're going to chain once, and we're going to do 1 treble crochet. So 1, 2, back in the center, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to chain 1. Okay, and now we're going to go back and do 3 double crochets. So we're repeating the pattern backwards. Okay, so now guess what's coming up next? The trebles. So we're going to do 3 trebles one more time. Okay, so now our pattern looks pretty similar, but now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to slip stitch in the ring. So we're going to put needle through, pull up our yarn, and then just pull it through for a slip stitch. Now you can cut off that yarn right there. Tie that off. And now here's our beautiful heart. We're going to grab the end of our magic ring and we're going to pull it together. And then that was the end. And then there is our lovely little heart right here. And you can use this for so many different projects. Depending on the thickness of your yarn, you can get really big projects or really big hearts. This is one that I did. I was playing around and when I was figuring out my pattern, and I did like a double yarn on this one. So now we have our working yarn right here. I do want to, because see how that's really at the top, I want to create a little bit more definition. Always losing my darning needle. And I'm going to just come down a little bit just so it's not sticking out at the top. Okay, now where is our little bee? So now we have our little bee with our little stingerless behind, and we are going to attach the heart. So you do want to get this so that it lines up. If it looks like, I mean, I guess it's up to you, personal preference. You could do it like this if you want to do it like that. But I'm going to do it like this. And then also your own personal preference. If you just want the center, you could just do the center and keep it a little loose. With the first one, I actually tacked it down, and I'm not sure if I like it tacked down, to be perfectly honest. So let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to grab this one here and make sure that we are even with our eyeballs and with our wings, which is going to be right here. I'm going to go, let's see. Oh, lots of layers here. I'm going to pull it through all of our layers. Yeah, because if we don't tack it down, it might curl. So we might do some strategic tacking. So now we did that with the first side. We're going to take the other side and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to come from this side. Oh, this is thick, thick, thick. Just don't go too far, too much further than your heart, because we don't want these to show. Okay. So now we have one on each side of our heart. And what I'm going to do this time, I went around the edge last time. I'm going to try something a little different, and I'm going to go through right behind those stitches, because I think that'll make it a little bit less conspicuous. And I'm going to be very gentle. Up through there. Okay, now that those are tied, guess what time it is? Hide the tails. Okay, and the final thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ties here. They are in the same hole. I'm going to just give them a single tie. Actually, I'll do a double knot here, just so that it doesn't accidentally pull on our work. Then we are going to take both yarn tails together and we're going to pull them through however long you want. If you want this to go around, like I said, your mirror, then you probably need to make it a little bit bigger. You can control that, and then just trim off the extra. And here we have our adorable little love bee. Such a cute project, great for the love bug in your life, although bees are not bugs, by the way. All right, well, how unbelievably cute is this? I know, horrible pun, but this is... I love this pattern right here, and hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any other questions, make sure to pop those down in the comments. I'll also, in the comments, put the pattern so you can see that as well. And thank you so much. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, it's my pleasure showing you how to create amazing, cool, crafty things. So until next time, everybody, see ya!